I still remember the night we celebrated our son's dream home. My wife suddenly grabbed my arm and rushed me outside. I thought she was feeling sick. She stayed silent the entire drive home. Then she looked at me and whispered, "You spent all evening looking at the house, but you never saw what they were doing to our son." I was 68 years old and I believed I understood people. After 42 years as a high school shop teacher in Colorado, I had learned to read faces better than most. I could usually tell when someone was worried before they said a single word. That confidence disappeared the night my own son needed me most. Our son, Ryan, had finally bought his first home outside Denver. Linda and I couldn't have been prouder. He had worked long hours as a software engineer, skipped vacations, and saved every extra dollar. Watching him unlock the front door with a smile on, his face felt like watching years of sacrifice finally pay off. Linda baked his favorite apple pie. I brought an old red toolbox that had belonged to my father. It wasn't expensive, but it had repaired our first family car, built our back porch, and fixed countless broken things over the years. I wanted Ryan to have something that reminded him where he came from. The house was full of laughter. Friends admired every room. Neighbors complimented the beautiful backyard. Ryan welcomed us with a warm hug. "I'm so glad you're here, Dad," he said. His smile looked real, but his eyes carried a tiredness I couldn't explain. Before I could ask if everything was okay, his wife Melissa stepped between us with 2 drinks. "You have to see the kitchen," she said brightly. Ryan spent months planning it. She gently turned him toward another group of guests. I smiled and followed everyone else. Later that evening, I handed Ryan the toolbox. His face immediately softened. "Dad, I can't believe you kept this." Before he could open it, Melissa carefully took it from his hands. "I'll put it somewhere safe," she said with a polite smile. She disappeared down the hallway and returned several minutes later without it. The party continued, but something slowly began to bother me. Every time Ryan walked toward me, someone interrupted us. Sometimes it was Melissa. Sometimes she introduced another guest. Sometimes his phone suddenly rang. We never had a private conversation. Then Linda quietly touched my arm. "We need to leave." Her voice was calm, but something felt terribly wrong. The drive home was completely silent. Finally, I asked, "What's going on?" She turned toward me, her face pale. "You spent the whole evening admiring that beautiful house," she whispered. "I spent the evening watching your son." I frowned. "What are you talking about?" She looked straight into my eyes. "Melissa wasn't protecting Ryan tonight." My heart started beating faster. "She was making sure he never got a single minute alone with you. And I think she was hiding something before we ever walked through that front door." I couldn't sleep that night. Linda's words echoed through my mind. The more I replayed the celebration, the more details I remembered. Ryan's tired smile. Every conversation cut short. Melissa, always finding a reason to pull him away. I had spent the evening admiring the house while my wife had been watching our son. By morning, I had made up my mind. Linda and I drove back to Ryan's house without calling first. Ryan opened the front door, looking genuinely surprised. "Dad? Mom? Is everything okay?" Before I could answer, Melissa appeared behind him with the same bright smile she had worn the night before. "What a wonderful surprise," she said. "Come in, I was just making coffee." Ryan looked at her before stepping aside. It was only a quick glance, but it felt like he was waiting for permission. That bothered me. While Melissa worked in the kitchen, I quietly asked Ryan if he could show me the backyard again. He nodded. The moment we stepped outside, I closed the patio door behind us. "You've been trying to tell me something," I said gently. Ryan looked toward the house. "I'm fine, Dad." "No, you're not." He forced a smile that disappeared almost instantly. Before he could answer, the patio door slid open. Melissa leaned outside. "Ryan, can you help me for a second?" He sighed softly. "I'll be right back." He never got the chance to finish his sentence. Linda walked over to me a few minutes later. "You were right," she whispered. "She won't leave him alone for even a minute." An hour passed before Melissa offered to show Linda the upstairs guest rooms. The moment they disappeared, I quietly walked into the garage. My father's old red toolbox sat on a workbench. I opened it carefully. Everything looked exactly as I remembered. The hammer, the measuring tape, the old screwdrivers. Then I lifted the bottom tray. My heart nearly stopped. The hidden envelope was gone. Inside that envelope was my late father's handwritten letter to the family. It wasn't worth money, but it held memories that could never be replaced. Only Ryan knew that letter had been hidden inside the toolbox. Someone had removed it. I closed the toolbox just as footsteps approached. Ryan walked into the garage and quickly shut the door behind him. "Dad," he whispered, "I don't have much time." I looked into his eyes. "What is going on?" His shoulders trembled. "I didn't buy this house." I stared at him in disbelief. "What are you talking about?" "My paycheck paid the mortgage," he said quietly. "But my name isn't the one making the decisions anymore." Before I could ask what he meant, he reached into his pocket and slipped a folded piece of paper into my hand. "Don't read it here," he whispered. "Please." "Just trust me." The garage door suddenly opened. Melissa stood there staring at us. Her smile faded the moment she noticed the paper disappearing into my jacket pocket. For the first time, I saw fear in her eyes. I slipped the folded paper into my jacket without saying a word. Melissa forced another smile, but this time I noticed something different. The confidence she had carried all weekend was gone. For the first time since I had known her, she looked nervous. "There you are," she said. "Lunch is ready." Ryan wouldn't look at me. He quietly followed her back into the house. Linda and I stayed only a few more minutes before leaving. During the drive home, neither of us spoke. The silence felt heavier than any conversation. Finally, I unfolded the paper Ryan had slipped into my hand. It wasn't a letter. It was a copy of a legal agreement. As I read each page, my heart grew heavier. Months before buying the house, Ryan had signed documents allowing Melissa's uncle to place the property into a family trust. Ryan would pay the mortgage, the taxes, the insurance, and every repair. But the trust controlled the home's major financial decisions. The dream house everyone celebrated wasn't truly his. At the bottom of the final page, Ryan had written one sentence in blue ink. "Dad, I was too ashamed to admit I didn't understand what I was signing." I folded the papers and looked at Linda. "Our son doesn't need someone to judge him," I said quietly. "He needs someone to stand beside him." That evening, Ryan met us at a quiet park near a small lake. He looked exhausted. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I wanted you to think I had finally made it." Every time I asked questions, Melissa and her uncle told me I worried too much. They said successful people trusted the process. After a while, I stopped asking. I placed my hand on his shoulder. "Son, never let anyone make you feel embarrassed for asking honest questions. The people who truly love you will always explain, never pressure." Ryan wiped away a tear. I should have listened to my instincts. "You still can," I replied. The next morning, Ryan requested copies of every document he had signed. He reviewed each page carefully, opened a separate bank account, changed his passwords, and began taking control of his own finances. He also met with experienced financial professionals to understand every obligation before making another decision. When Melissa realized what he was doing, she became angry. She accused him of ruining their future. Ryan stayed calm. "I'm not ruining our future," he said. "I'm trying to understand it." Over the next several weeks, uncomfortable truths slowly surfaced. Ryan discovered important details that had never been clearly explained to him. Melissa admitted she had trusted her uncle's advice without realizing how trapped Ryan would eventually feel. The trust between them was broken. Without trust, their marriage couldn't survive. They separated peacefully, choosing honesty over endless arguments. A few months later, Ryan sold his interest in the property, accepted the financial loss, and rented a modest townhouse across town. It wasn't impressive, but when Linda and I visited, I noticed something the expensive house had never given him: peace. His smile was genuine again. His shoulders were relaxed. The worry had disappeared from his eyes. As we unpacked boxes together, Ryan carried my father's old red toolbox into the garage. "I found this while moving," he said with a smile. Then he reached inside and handed me the missing envelope. I searched everywhere until I found it. Grandpa's letter deserved to come home. I carefully unfolded the faded paper. My father's handwriting was still clear. A strong home isn't built with expensive walls. It's built with honest hearts, faithful promises, and the courage to protect your peace. Ryan framed those words beside the front door of his new home. Now every time I visit, I stop and read them before I leave. That beautiful dream house didn't become my son's greatest achievement. Walking away from pride, choosing honesty, and rebuilding his life with courage did. And as his father, I finally understood that the safest home isn't the one with the highest price. It's the one where truth never has to hide.